Thank you, Gordo. Thank you, Gordo. Just after listening to you, I just have to take a deep breath. You know, I have a secret. Before I speak, I listen to comedy tapes for an hour. And I did that today. If I knew you were going to be up there, I wouldn't have had to do that. I don't know how many of you have seen our film, Bella. Anyone seen Bella? Our little film, Crescendo, and that I produced with Patty Millett, the mother of Justin Bieber. And right now, our film, Little Boy, is the #1 film on Netflix. So if you go home, go to Netflix, look at the #1 film. That's our film, Little Boy. But in over the 36 films I've been involved in, the one I'm most proud of is my first film, Bella. And I'd like to share this with you. When we made the film, our goal was to know the name of one baby whose mother saw our film and chose life because of it within 10 years of being in theaters. It's been 8 years since the theatrical release of Bella, and we stopped counting after we received our 1,000th letter from a young woman who was scheduled to have an abortion, saw Bella, and kept her baby. And it is a privilege. I've been to a lot of events like this, regional, national, international, but this has to be the best lineup of speakers that I have ever seen at any event that I've ever been to, because they're all of my favorites. And so it's just a privilege to be here. And in fact, I was really surprised to even be invited as a speaker, because my business partner is Eduardo Verástegui. Many of you know Eduardo. He's a big star. He's in demand, and every morning I check our voicemail, and there are all these requests for Eduardo, Eduardo, Eduardo. But then one morning, and I'm not good with accents, but a lady called. I think she was from Louisiana. I thought she was from Louisiana. She said, "Hi, my name's Molly Smith." And she's like, "We'd really like that hot hunk of a man of yours to come give a speech." And I was like, finally, somebody wants me. So thank you, Molly. Miss, that's a joke, but when you laugh and clap like that, it really hurts my feelings. It really does hurt my feelings. I like to tease Eduardo, but I credit all of our success really for him, because he was a big star and he sacrificed everything for his vision of Metanoia Films. And the day I met him, I didn't really want to meet him. I was in Mexico City with Marie Smith. I don't know how many of you know Marie Smith. She's the wife of Congressman Chris Smith, who chairs the pro-life caucus in the House of Representatives for the past 30 years, congressman from New Jersey, and a real hero. And I was in Mexico City with Marie Smith, and we were in conferences and meetings all day, and she called me from downstairs, and she said, "Jason, you have to come meet this man, Eduardo Verástegui. He's so handsome." I was like, I hate handsome men. I don't want to meet a handsome man. She's like, "He's a telenovela star." I'm like, "What's a telenovela?" She's like, "It's a Mexican soap opera." I don't want you to meet an American soap actor. What makes you think I want to meet a Mexican soap actor? She said, "Well, he's pro-life. I'm coming down." So I race downstairs. I go out in front of the Four Seasons there in Mexico City. There's Marie Smith. There's Eduardo. And they're talking to, of all people in the universe, the soccer player Pele. Really? And so there's Eduardo and Marie, myself, we're chit-chatting, and Marie leaves, and I'm just listening to Eduardo and Pele talk. And what are they talking about? Their love of Jesus Christ and their commitment to the pro-life cause. And I'm like, this is amazing. The most famous athlete of the 20th century. And then Pele excuses himself, and it's Eduardo and I, and we're talking about pro-life. And I'm looking at him, and I'm gazing into his eyes, and I'm like, wow, he is so handsome. This guy is really handsome. And then Eduardo looks, this is true, and he looks scared. He says, "Run." And he starts running down the street. And I'm running down the street after him in Mexico City, and I just saw the movie Man on Fire, so I'm scared to death, right? And we're running down the street, and he keeps looking back. He turns a corner. He's hailing a cab's slowing down. Eduardo looks back. He just has this fright in his eyes. I stop. I turn. I look, and there are like 50 women running after us. I like to say us, you know. We get in the cab, we're out of breath, we take off, and I look at Eduardo and I say, "I'm sorry, my friend, but if you want to hang out with me, get used to it. Every day is just like this." And it has been a privilege to work with him, to share the culture of life through film, and that's where I started getting to meet a lot of folks. And people think that my journey in the pro-life movement began with Bella. But it didn't. Unfortunately, my journey in the pro-life movement began the way it begins for so many people, I was 16 years old. It was 2 days before my 17th birthday. It was a Saturday morning. I'd never been to church a day in my life. I was raised in a broken home by a single mom. I was asleep, half asleep and sore from the football game the night before. I heard steps coming, someone walking up the stairs. Thought it was my little sister. The door opens, somebody sits on my bed. I open my eyes, and it's my high school girlfriend. And she looks me straight in the eyes and says, "I'm pregnant." And I woke right up. And so the two of us that Saturday morning tried to figure out what we were going to do. I was a heavily recruited high school football player. I had aspirations of going to college and playing football, and Katie had her plan. She went to a private Catholic school. We sat there that day, and this is what we decided. On my birthday, which was 2 days away, I would drop out of high school and join the Army. I knew of this program because a kid in my neighborhood just did it, where you could leave high school, go straight to basic training and straight to your unit. So I'm like, I'll do what he did. And Katie's like, okay, and I'll take vitamins and wear baggy sweaters till you get back from basic training. That was our plan. And that's what we did. On my birthday, I went down to the recruiter's office, and the recruiter said, this program is not for everyone. You have to prove that you are an exceptional loser. It is for really bad kids. And, I said, out of 565 kids in my class, I'm dead last. I'm 5'6", and I have 80 hours of detention waiting for me after football season. He's like, I think you qualify. He gave me a piece of paper. He said, you have your mother sign this, your principal sign this, and you pass the physical, we can get you in. So I took it to the principal. She looked at it. She said, if I sign this piece of paper, I will never see you again. I said, no, ma'am. She's like, have a good life. It's going to be hard. And gave it to my mother. She didn't ask too many questions. Single mom, 5 kids. She signed the piece of paper. The day the recruiter was coming to pick me up, I know there are a lot of veterans in the room, so you know the deal. He said, you need a suitcase with toothpaste, toothbrush, underwear, and a razor blade. So I ran around my house and looking for a suitcase, and we never traveled anywhere, and I panicked. We didn't own a suitcase. So I was thinking, they're not going to let me in the Army. I don't own a suitcase. What am I going to do? I called the recruiter. Sir, I don't own a suitcase. He said, well, just use your pillowcase. Okay, so I went up to my room. My pillowcase was still my Scooby-Doo pillowcase. So I went to my sister's room, strawberry shortcake. I went with Scooby-Doo, with the socks, the underwear, the toothpaste, toothbrush. And then I realized, I don't shave. So I called the recruiter. Hey, I don't really need to shave yet. Do I need a razor blade? He goes, yes, you need a razor blade, private. Learn to follow instructions. So I bought a 25-cent Bic razor, threw it into my Scooby-Doo pillowcase. My recruiter picked me up, and off I went to Fort Benning, Georgia. When I got to Fort Benning, on the first Sunday, it was church. And so they said, everyone line up for church. Well, I'd never been to a damn church in my life. They said, Catholics in this formation, Protestants in this formation. I'm like, I have blonde hair. I guess I'm Protestant probably, right? So I got in line with the Protestants. It's good logic, right? If you have blonde hair and you're a Protestant, raise your hand. All right, okay, see, it's true. So I got in line with the Protestants, and I have raging attention deficit disorder, or which I like to call it a superpower. And I got back and I said to the recruiter, the drill sergeant, this is America, you can't make me go to church, I'm an atheist, and I'm never going to church on Sundays. And in my mind, I figured I'd get to sit around in the barracks all alone, Drill sergeants had other ideas about that. They said, great, you'll have extra duty every Sunday from now until you leave. And so on Sundays, I had extra detail every Sunday. To let you know how the military's changed, my 26-year-old son is stationed at the DMZ in Korea, and I'm so proud of him, but when he was in basic training, he had to use his own money to take the public bus to go to a church off base when he was in basic training, so things have changed. But my first Sunday, I had pots and pans detail. They gave it to me because it was the worst. No one wanted pots and pans. You had to clean these huge pots and pans. But I discovered that in the freezer behind the pots and pan station, the drill sergeants hoarded ice cream bars that were probably for us, but there's no way in the world we're eating ice cream in basic training, so they were saving them for their kid's birthday party or whatnot, I know. But I got this bright idea that I would fill buckets with ice and sneak ice cream bars upstairs, and when the soldiers came back from from church. I'd say, who wants to polish my shoes on Monday? Ice cream bar. Tuesday, ice cream bar. Who's shining my brass? Ice cream bar. Who wants to make my bed? Ice cream bar. Ice cream bar. So, so you're giving me a dirty look. So in the Army, I know Pastor Booker from Calvary Chapel is thinking, that guy's a thief. But in the Army, that's not stealing. It's called securing. The ice cream was left, it wasn't secure. Secured it. And Bernie Sanders would be happy. I distributed it equitably to the people. Right? And so that was my deal. And so basic and advanced training went along. I was in the infantry, so basic and AIT are together. And I was 2 weeks away from graduating. It was a Sunday morning. I was cleaning pots and pans, waiting for an opportunity to secure the ice cream. And a soldier came in. I'll never forget this kid. He was a traveling Irish, if you guys know what the travelers are. He was a traveling Irish kid, and he had desk duty, and he came running in, and he said, Jones, your girlfriend's on the she called in on one of the payphones, and she's crying. You should come out here. So I ran out, and I answered the phone, and Katie was crying like I have never heard a woman cry in my life, before or since. And the only way that I can describe it to you is that her soul was crying. And she kept saying over and over and over again, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. It wasn't me. And then her father said over the other line, Jason, we know your secret, and your secret's gone. I took Katie to get an abortion. As soon as he said the word abortion, a drill sergeant hung up the phone. I hit him. Another drill sergeant grabbed me by my collar and pulled me into my captain's office. I was crying so hard and just yelling to call the police. He killed my baby. He called the police. He killed my baby. That my big Army Ranger captain just began to cry, looking at me. He said, Private, what happened? And he kicked the drill sergeants out. He sat me down. He said, look me in the eyes and tell me what happened. And when I explained him what happened, he looked confused. And he said, Private, why would I call the police? Don't you know that abortion is legal? And I didn't. Never been to church a day in my life. I was last in my class. I knew every football player in the NFL, but I did not know in our country that abortion was legal. Now, I was an E1 private making $300 a month, but it was not above my pay grade to know the basics of human development and that what just happened was the murder of my child. But I did not know that it was legal. My captain gave me a Cliff Notes explanation of legal abortion in America. I suspect he was pro-life, a Christian, because he was very sympathetic. He gave me a roll of quarters and he said, I want you to go to the PX and call your girlfriend and comfort her. I can't have you disturbing the battalion, but you just walk to the PX. And so I walked to the PX, and I can remember that walk like it was yesterday. I was raised in a broken home I have 5 siblings, all from different men. My life as a child was chaos, but it didn't bother me because I would always say I was the oldest, and when anything would happen, and I was very protective of my siblings, I would say, when I'm a man, when I'm a father, when I have a home, my children will be protected and it'll be peaceful. And I would always think that. And I was here right out the gate. I couldn't protect my child and I couldn't protect my girlfriend. And I was broken at just thinking of Katie alone, hurting. But what really just knocked the wind out of me, what I could not comprehend, is that this was all perfectly legal. It just was the strangest thing that I could have ever imagined. And I wish the whole world can see abortion the way that this uneducated high school dropout from the south side of Chicago saw abortion then and still sees it the same today. But when I got to the phone, I called Katie, and I put in the quarter, first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and I tried to comfort her, but we really didn't talk. I just listened to her cry through an entire roll of quarters. And I would try to say something to comfort her. But when I put in the last quarter, and I was out of change, and the mechanical voice said, you have 30 seconds left. Please deposit more change. And I was out of money. I just wanted to comfort Katie. And so I just was, what can I say? What can I say? I just wanted to stop her from wailing. What can I say? And so I just blurted out, Katie, I promise you, if it takes me the rest of my life, I'm going to end abortion for my daughter, Jessica. And the phone went dead. And we know our baby was a girl. We said it was 7 months after conception. So there's a forced abortion in America, 7 months after conception at Chicago Masonic Hospital. We know the baby was a girl because the doctor at Chicago Masonic Hospital looked up to her after and said, oh, by the way, you had a little girl. And her name is Jessica. And if you see my movie Crescendo that I produced with Patty Millett, the mother of Justin Bieber, it says at the very end, in loving memory of Jessica Jones. I mean, I had the privilege of screening that film at the United Nations and in film schools across China. But you know, I made that promise. It was really just I wanted to comfort Katie. But for my first 13 years in the pro-life movement, I was an atheist. And I'm a Catholic now. I'm more or less a new Catholic. To me, I'm a new Catholic. I've been Catholic 14 years, but I'm still a bad Catholic. Like every Lent, applause line. Even the blonde-haired Protestants can applaud that. You know, it's still hard. Like Lent is very hard for me. You know, I give up something, and then like 3 days later, I'm like, okay, I'll just have chocolate when my wife and kids aren't around because I have to be a good example of a Catholic man in my family. It was like 9 years before I found out, like, no, Jason, you just pray the rosary instead, and you can break your sacrifice. I'm like, what? This is okay, write that down. So it's very hard. Every Sunday since I've converted, it is hard for me to go to Mass because Sunday is for football or sleeping in. I got to get dressed up again on a Sunday. It's still hard. But I'll tell you this, since the day I made that commitment in the spring of 1989 from Fort Benning, Georgia until today, and those of you who know me, you don't want to really have private conversations with me because I get intense. From that day until this day, the first thing I think about every morning when I wake up is full legal protection for the child in the womb from the violence of abortion. The last thing I think about when I go to bed is full legal protection for the child in the womb. And that's what drives me all day. And that's why I love to be around you people who are the most beautiful people in the world. And when I heard Gordon's story, I know there are, for everyone here, there's a story of someone who's living in solidarity with the weak and the vulnerable in the same way. And I know it's only by God's grace. Even those 13 years I was an atheist. So when I got to Schofield Barracks, Hawaii, where I was stationed, I said, okay, now I'm going to end abortion. How am I going to end abortion? And I knew how. I'm going to go door to door and talk to people about abortion and tell them it's legal. Because people just must not know it's legal. I didn't know, and I'm like, if I didn't know, who knows, right? No one must know. And my mother was the type, if you knock it on my mom's door, Jehovah's Witness, Mormon, Hoover vacuum cleaner salesman, Shackley salesman, they were all in my house. And I hated it because I just wanted to make an omelet in my underwear on a Saturday. But no, the Jehovah's Witnesses ladies are sitting there. So I just did it and said, you want to be in my kitchen on Saturday morning? You get to watch me make an omelet in my underwear. But it taught me you can knock on a stranger's door and they'll open and talk to you. So I was stationed at Schofield Barracks in Hawaii on the island of Oahu, west side, in the late 80s, early 90s. When I was there, agriculture was our industry. And the first housing that was closest to Schofield Barracks, I didn't get this at the time, but it was migrant workers from the Philippines that were not even U.S. citizens that worked in the plantations. And so I would go to their houses and knock on their doors and, hi, hey, and they'd say, Haole boy, go away. Haole is like Hawaiian for white, so my children are Filipino, Chinese, Hawaiian, I call them jalapenos. Haole boy, go away. And I'd yell, hey, do you know abortion's legal? That was my pitch. It was good, very sophisticated. Zig Ziglar would have loved it. And then I said, don't you think we should make it illegal? It was very simple. And if they said they didn't know it was illegal, which, by the way, many migrant workers from Ilocos Norte in the Philippines didn't know. So I'm like, see, nobody knows. And they all agreed with me because these were pious Catholics from the Philippines. So I thank God that the first doors I knocked on for like the first year were the most pious, devout Catholics in the universe. Because I'm like, this is going to be so easy. This is so easy. And then I'd give them my phone number, like, hey, who wants to go door to door with me? Here's my number, call my CQ desk. And then it'd be me and all my Filipino friends going door to door, you know. And by the way, I thought I was the only pro-lifer in the world. Like, I didn't know. Because it was 1989, no cable news, no Google. It was me and a little book I got from Alan Guttmacher Institute called Roe v. Wade in Focus from the Base Library. That's all I had. And my lines, which were great. And then a woman called me up at my CQ desk. And for those of you who are in the pro-life movement, you know who we are. You know how we are. I get a call, and this lady's so angry. Are you Jason Jones? Yes. You need to stop telling people you work for us. And she said the name of who she was. And I'm like, ma'am, I never heard of you. I don't know what you do. And I'm in the Army. Why would I say I work for you? She says, you're going door to door, right? Yeah, talking to people about abortion, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, we're Hawaii Right to Life. That's what we do. I'm like, we have a group? Right to life. I get it. That is good. You guys are geniuses. That is so much better than, do you know abortion's legal? You guys, is going to be easier than I thought. It's already rolling. And then my captain called me in, okay? Not the captain from basic training, the captain of my duty station. And now, I don't want it to sound like I was a good Christian boy. I want you to know I liked girls, I liked alcohol, I liked fighting. I also liked fighting NCOs, which isn't good. I had 3 Article 15s my first year in the Army. Today, you get 1 in a career, you're gone. I had 3 in a year. And so I was not the model soldier. But my chain of command, for some reason, liked me. And my captain called me in, and he said, Private Jones, have a seat. There's some rumors going around, and we know they're not true, but people are saying weird things about you. They say that you harass civilians about abortion. Yes, sir, I do that. And he's like, are you crazy? I said, no, sir, I'm going to end abortion. And I told him why. And he said, you know, Private, it's admirable. But at West Point, I was taught if you have a goal, you need a plan. Do you have a plan? No, sir, but I have 2 books. I don't know where I got this idea, but I had 2 books. And I knew these books were the key to ending abortion. Machiavelli's The Prince and Plato's Republic. I had them laminated and in my rucksack. And to this day, I don't know where I got this idea. But I would study, I'm Catholic, and I underlined The Prince like you evangelicals underline the Bible. Like everything's underlined. Like what good does that do when you underline everything? That was me. I love you guys, though, I do. So my captain's like, he's like, you don't have a plan? No, sir, but I got these books. I'm going door to door with the Filipinos. We got this. And he said, listen, this is how you're going to do it. You start with your goal. Your goal is to end abortion. Yes, sir. And then you ask yourself, well, how would you do that? Like, where would you have to be to do that? And then you'd ask yourself, how do you get to that place? And how does someone go from there to there and there to there? And you work yourself back from your goal. Start with your goal and work your way back, step by step by step by step by step. That's how you make a plan. And then you work the plan forward. And he said, you know, Private, you're going to need a lot of time. Like, give yourself 40 years. Make a 40-year plan to end abortion. Start backwards. Work your way back step by step by step by step by step till you reach the worst soldier in my company. That's you, Jones. And work it forward. Now, he may have been making fun of me, but I was like, yes! 40-year plan. And I went and I wrote crazy things. I'm going to make movies that change public opinion. I'm going to work on presidential campaigns. I'm the national co-chair for Cruz for President. Like, crazy stuff. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, I thought that was in my head. Sorry. Sorry, Molly. So I was so excited. And so step one, I was very insecure about two things. I played football, I boxed, I was poor growing up, I had really bad fake teeth, and I knew I needed new teeth if I was gonna do anything in life. And I just broke my jaw last year doing MMA fighting because I don't grow up. And my wife's like, when are you gonna learn? And I knew I needed an education because here I'm a high school dropout with my GED from Georgia because my recruiters were like, you know, Jones, we're going to have you take the GED in Georgia. It's a little easier than Illinois. And if that doesn't work out, we're going to put you on a bus to Alabama. It's true. I'm not making this up. This is true. So my GED is from Georgia. Yes. And Georgia Right to Life's amazing. See how that works? Is it a coincidence? I think not. So I go to the University of Hawaii, I start my pro-life student union. We're saving so many babies. Literally, I didn't want to graduate. So it took me 7.5 years to get my bachelor's degree. And when I graduated, I was really so sad. I'm like, I'm never going to save a baby again because in college it's so amazing. So when you are a student, you be loud and everywhere write and speak and have booths, because you cannot imagine how amazing it's going to be for you, how many lives you're going to save and change. So I didn't want to graduate. And then I graduated, and I'm like, okay, now is the sprint, and it's Hawaii. And in Hawaii, you can kind of do whatever you want because there's only so many people. So I was chairman of the Young College Republicans, then I ran for chairman of the Young Republicans, then I was chief of staff for state rep at the same time. I was also had a radio show with the Democrat mayor, Mayor Frank Fossey, who is a great Italian mayor of Honolulu, Democrat, but pro-life is all get out. And I'm doing everything. And then Hawaii Right to Life called me in. Now remember, I was still an atheist, and Hawaii Right to Life called me in, and they said, Jason, we want to offer you the executive director position. We don't really want to offer this to you, but no one else will take the job. And we can't pay you, but you can live there in the shower. You can shower at the beach. It's like a mile away. Oh, we don't want to do this. And then I'm like, I'll do it. And so I became director of Hawaii Right to Life. Now I was excited because I'm like, it'll probably take me a year now. As chairman of the Young Republicans, I got a radio show, and I'm director of Right to Life. I'll probably end abortion in a year in Hawaii. I was like 27 at the time. Then they'll fly me to DC when they see how bright I am. That'll take me 2 years. And I can still lead the Chicago Bears to the Super Bowl. I'll be young enough to do this. So I had a plan. So I'm ahead of schedule. So my first thing was the late 90s. Of course, I introduced a bill in the state ledge to protect, or to just remove one procedure in the third trimester, not third trimester abortions, just the partial birth abortion procedure. That's it. And I'm like, this is going to show how gruesome these people are, but we'll get it through committee, we'll get it to the floor, we'll win, the governor will sign it, and the ball's rolling. And then it went to committee, and it was held in committee. Whatever. I got this. And I went to Susie Chun Oakland's office, the state rep. I said, if you don't hear that bill, I'm going to canvass your district. She goes, have at it. I canvassed her district. I had almost every registered voter in her district sign my petition, including her husband, her mother, her children, and her staff. And I was like, Rep, you going to hear my bill now? She looked up. She was signing something. She said, Jason, you're so hardworking. I'll never hear that bill. And it devastated me. It broke my heart. I couldn't believe it. I had a plan. Things were rolling now for 9 years straight. Everything I wanted to do, I did. Every goal I had, I achieved. Here's something that seemed so simple. It seemed like I did everything one could hope to do, and yet nothing. And it was the first time I hit that thing that some of us in the pro-life movement hit. We're just like, what? And I called Dr. Alan Keyes. Now, I had his phone number because when I was chairman of the College Republicans at the University of Hawaii, anyone I asked to speak in February said yes. And I wouldn't have to pay them. So it was great. And I just paid for their flights and their hotels. And so I called Dr. Alan Keyes, Ambassador Alan Keyes, who's just a pro-life hero. And he really empowered me in college when I would watch his speeches over and over on VHS tapes. And I said, Dr. Keyes, I'm chairman of the Young Republicans. I'm chief of staff for a state representative. I have a radio show. I'm executive director of Hawaii Right to Life. I'm doing everything I can. And I can't even get this little bill through committee. And he said, the darker the world becomes, the further your light will shine. Just pray. And here I am, an atheist. I'm like, thanks, Dr. Keyes. Who tells an atheist to pray to solve a problem? And so I was so angry. I said, all right, I'm going to pray. Christians pray. They're lazy. They just pray. Okay, I'm going to pray. God, if you exist, this was my prayer, for real. This was the prayer exactly. And I don't believe you're real. And if you're real, you're not good, because I'm not good, but I'm real, and I'm fighting abortion. And I don't see you. There's me and 4 old ladies in a little office. I don't see you. You know, and if you're out there, you want me to believe in you, I guess that's your thing. I want 3 things from you, and I'll acknowledge your existence. 3, just 3. I need rich people. I need famous people. I need powerful people. Raise them up, all-knowing, all-powerful God, and I'll acknowledge that you exist. When I was at the United Nations, screening Crescendo to the General Assembly, a film funded by one of the wealthiest families in the world, a film that I produced with the mother of the most famous boy in the world, I heard God whisper in my ear, hey, smart guy, what do you want now? Can you just do it yourself? No. And so what I've learned, because sometimes now on speed dial, I have several people running for president I am texting with, congressmen, senators in both parties, movie stars, and I feel as helpless as I did then. But if I look At the track of my career, from when I made that prayer in the middle of the Pacific Ocean 17 years ago till today, the only explanation is that God answers the prayers of atheists when those prayers correspond to God's will. And it is not God's will that abortion doesn't end. It is that we lack the will to end abortion, because God has given us all the grace we need. And it is God's will that the child in the womb is protected from the violence of abortion. You know, I had another very sad day, and it was right here in Cleveland. It was in 2008. I started a super PAC called Just One Judge. We spent millions of dollars in Ohio to get out the pro-life vote. And my high school girlfriend called me and she said, Jason, I'm getting on a plane. When I land, you tell me the results, because you're about to keep your promise. And I wasn't confident either way the election went. I was doing much to help a promise, to keep a promise. But when the election happened, I was just destroyed. And Katie called me, so tell me. And I'm like, no, it's not good. And I went to my little hotel room and literally cried myself to sleep. The next morning, I woke up to catch my flight from Cleveland to Los Angeles, and someone gave me a book called Memory and Identity by Pope John Paul II. And in this book, he outlined his battle against the great ideologies of evil of his age, primarily Nazism and communism, and towards the end of his life, the culture of death. And in this, he said that evil is the deprivation, and the seeds of all ideologies of evil are their own destruction. And when the Nazis rolled into Poland, I knew that they would be violent, but they wouldn't be there long. And I was a young actor, Karol Wojtyła, and I was a young actor, and I wanted to fight because they forbid Catholic and Christian and Polish expressions in theater and art. So we put on clandestine plays celebrating our culture, risking our lives to fight the Nazis. And here I am, and I'm like, wow, I'm flying to Los Angeles, where I can make movies that millions of people can see. Not 10 people in a dimly lit church in the middle of the night. And I'm not risking my life. I'm risking dirty looks at a party, or someone will say I won't work with him. That's the most I'll ever risk. And there's nothing I can't do in the world where a latte is not 2 minutes away. And you know, I was like, wow, we're winning. By the way, winning the culture war is a necessary condition for legal protection. Winning the culture war is not sufficient condition, but it is a necessary condition. But here's the good news. Think of the movies that touch on abortion that haven't been funded by Planned Parenthood. 2 have been actually funded by Planned Parenthood, and those are the only 2 you can think of that won't conform to this. Obvious Child and Cider House Rules. They were funded by Planned Parenthood, so put it over here. Every other movie that Hollywood has ever made that touches on abortion, from The Detective in 1951 until the films that have come out that we may know, who's seen Juno, Waitress, August Rush, October Baby, the best pro-life movie ever, Bella? Like, who has seen Knocked Up? Oh, I thought we were all Christians here. Okay, whatever. Yeah. Watch those kind of movies. I had to watch it for work. Knocked Up. Knocked Up is like almost pornographic, but it is the most in-your-face anti-abortion movie you will ever see. It's about a woman who gets pregnant, and she gives up her dream job at E to keep her baby, but then actually her career advances, and everyone that tells her to get an abortion, the filmmakers make look like a jerk, and everyone who tells her to keep her baby, they elevate. And this is Hollywood, not Christians conspiring in Hollywood. This is just big Hollywood. Why? Because artists tell the truth from what they experience, and abortion is devastating. The writer of Juno, Diablo Cody, said that Juno was a true story that never happened. What does that mean? That means she was Juno. She was Juno, but what didn't happen? She didn't keep her baby. There's the sorrow. That's why she named her character after the angry goddess Juno, because Diablo's heart was broken. We are winning the war in the culture to protect the child in the womb from the violence of abortion. And you know, the Nazis, the 1,000-year Reich of the Nazis lasted how long? 12 years. Their divisions, their brigades, they savaged Europe with an industrial might of Germany. And the 1,000-year Reich that seemed unstoppable when Maximilian Kolbe was dying in a bunker in August of 2014 disappeared in an instant. But then the Soviet Union rolled into Poland. And John Paul II, the young man, Karol Wojtyła, said he knew that when the Soviets came in, only one thing could save Poland, because they were going to be there a while. And that was the one thing the Soviets were striking at the heart of: the Poles' love for Jesus Christ, their faith. So the young actor became the young priest. Now, when I was an atheist, I would always say, I wish these Christians would shut up about God all the time and let me do the talking. Especially those guys with the hats and the swords, like they're freaking people out. Vivat Jesus, I know. So, but you know, we're not an anti-abortion movement, really. We're a truth about the human person movement. And the truth is we are made in the image and likeness of God. That is the source of our incomparable dignity, beauty, and worth. That is why we protect the human person from the moment of their biological beginning through all stages of their life. You cannot separate our movement from the truth of who we are. Creatures made in the image and likeness of God, and we should never run from that. We should never hide from that, because in the end, there is no support for what we believe separated from that ever. But by the time I landed, I realized something. We're not like the Poles, and we're not like the Japanese or the Koreans or the Cubans or anyone else that ever lived. We're Americans. We are responsible for the laws of our land. We are the sovereigns. And God will judge us by the standard in which he judges kings and pharaohs and emperors, because each and every one of us are responsible. And I would say if you live in Ohio, you're more responsible. You are more privileged. I envy you. I envy you. Father Richard Newhouse said that the greatest tragedy, he is the founder of First Things magazine, and when he was a young Lutheran minister, very active in the civil rights movement, he wrote, "The greatest tragedy in American political history is that the pro-life flag is being planted in the Republican Party." I disagree with Father Newhouse. The greatest tragedy in American political history is that the pro-life flag is not firmly planted in both of our political parties. And R or D, it doesn't matter to me. I will make this promise to you right now. I will never, ever, ever vote for any candidate for any office at any level that is not fully and completely protected for legal protection for the child in the womb, ever. Now, I want to end on this story. Eduardo Verastegui and I get to go to a lot of places. I'm going to Syria in a couple of weeks, in Egypt, in the Emirates, in Ethiopia. And with the nature of my work, I get to go all over the world. And everywhere I go, I meet Christians like this. It doesn't matter if they're Dinkas in Darfur or the Nuba in the Nuba Mountains. We're the same. And we talk about the same things. We have the same faith, the same vision, the same ontology, the same drive. And it's a great experience. And I was going to Sudan in 2009, and Eduardo wanted to come. But I didn't really think he was going to come, and I didn't think anyone would let him come. But I said, well, if you want to go, I'll already be there when you'll be able to show up. So go to this airport and fly from this airport on a Voice of the Martyrs plane, and it will take you to where we are in Darfur. And he said, great, right there. I'm going to be there. I didn't believe him. But like a day later, his agent calls me. You can't take Eduardo to Sudan. What if he dies? Because this agent would lose money, right? The manager calls me. Random women are calling me from all over the world. You can't bring Eduardo. Don't bring Eduardo. And then this one lady called me, and she was just irate. She's like, your wife is pregnant. You have 4 kids. You know, you want to be a hero. You want to go out to the desert and die. That's your business. But how dare you bring Eduardo? And I had to say, Mom, he really wants to go. That's another true story. So, Eduardo comes, and we were with our friend Brad Phillips. If you support Voice of the Martyrs or Persecution Project Foundation, great organizations, he's with both. And Brad and I were there, and Eduardo shows up, and we actually were almost martyred, the 3 of us together. And I know it was a Friday. I'll never forget, because Brad Phillips comes up to me and he says, Jason, you go pray like a Catholic. I'm going to pray like an evangelical. And so I'll pray to God. He gets us out of this. We went to meet with a group of people called the Janjaweed. I wish I would have known what that meant. I wouldn't have went. Janjaweed is Arabic for devils on horseback. They have devils in their name. Probably don't want to meet with them, especially if you're in the deserts of Darfur, right? So it went south quick. And I know it was a Friday because he said, go pray like a Catholic. And I took out my rosary and I was like, first sorrowful mystery. We will not be meditating on scourging today, Lord. First joyful mystery. I switched the mysteries up. But then, as a Catholic, and evangelicals, you might not get this, but Catholics, you might understand. As a Catholic, for a moment, I sat there and I thought, I'm going to have my own prayer card. I'm going to be in Pauline bookstores across America. And then I looked at Eduardo. It's going to be Eduardo and his companion. Eduardo will be like this. Isn't that how it is? The companion always looks pathetic. The main guy's like this. The companion's like, oh. So the day before we were to leave, we were marching back from the SPLA camp, and those were the guerrillas fighting the Khartoum, the regime in Khartoum. And as I was walking back from their camp to our camp, these boys, and I got 14 seconds left. I'm going to go 3 minutes over. I apologize. But we were marching back, and these boys followed us, about 10 boys, from the age of about 10 to 2. And they, the oldest boy in perfect English, because it's strange when you're in Sudan sometimes, you'll meet someone who's never met a white guy. You could tell them you're Chinese, they don't know. But it's been, English is the official language for 100 years, and they'll speak the Queen's English. And this boy, he says, "Mister, take us where you going?" I said, "We're going to camp. Do you want to come with us?" He said, "No, mister, take us where you going?" I said, "We're going to camp. Do you want to play football? You want to play soccer?" He says, "No. No mom, no dad. 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 We are good boys, mister. Take us where you going? Take us to America." And I put these boys together under this tree, and I said, "Listen, boys, there's nothing in the world I want more than to bring you home. And my wife would be so happy if I came marching in the house with you guys. But my country will not let me. And it's not fair to your country. And so I'm going to pray every night with my family that God raises you boys up and that you boys become the founding fathers of a new, free, and prosperous Southern Sudan. That is going to be my prayer, that you boys will become great men." And we prayed, and my friend Pastor Tito, who's a Dinka evangelical, like 6'7", looks like Billy Graham, except he's Dinka, and he preached, he prayed for 20 minutes, like you evangelicals do, and then we marched off. And I knew God would answer that prayer. I just knew it, and I was not sad. And we marched off, and we played soccer, and do you know that God can answer that prayer? Do you believe it? Is it callous for me to think that? Now let me tell you, these boys were illiterate. They had parasites. They lived a mile from a war, And that's not the bad part. The bad part is that every quiet moment of their life is invaded by the memory and the sorrow of their family members being murdered before their very eyes. Imagine how debilitating that could be for a child. But we know that God can raise them up. We don't despair for them. We know it. And guess what? Their country is now fledgling but free, the first country freed from Islam since, Greece, I think. They are going to a good school where they have uniforms and nutrition. They don't look like boys anymore. They look like strong young men. And God is answering that prayer. So when I come back from these trips, and then I hear Christians in America say, "If so-and-so wins, I quit. It's over. It's the end of the world. I give up." I'm like, "Oh, is the Janjaweed raided your village and raped and killed your entire..." What are we complaining about? Things are getting a little strange, but we have had 800 years of commitment in the Anglo-American political community of extending liberty and freedom and prosperity. And we are still the richest, freest Christians that have ever walked the face of the earth. And we have no reason to complain. We have all the resources at our fingertips. The ball is still in our court. It's well a ways from being in any position where we can think to despair. And when I meet people like you, it encourages me. But what I see that you don't get to see would even be more encouraging. When I'm in Hollywood and when some flamboyant person with same-sex attraction who's a big celebrity says, "Jason, I want you to know I am so pro-life." Or one of the biggest movie producers in the world calls me to lunch and says, "Jason, I know who you are. I know what you're doing. And I experienced something just like you when I was 17. And I'm your friend, and if you ever need any help in this town, I believe in what you're doing. Call me." We are winning. 76% of those under 30 identify as pro-life. This is amazing. We are the largest social movement in the history of the world, really, and we have tools that no one could have ever even dreamed of. The one thing we haven't learned yet, and we're going to learn it, is how to harness this new sentiment that is generated over the past 10 to 15 years. We're going to learn how to harness this for political success. And trust me, we're going to do that. And I don't want to close on this, that when I was 17, I really thought I was going to end abortion by my will. I didn't think I needed you or anyone else. My will. Margaret Sanger and her little will changed the world. My will is bigger than hers. You want to know why? I was a linebacker. Margaret Sanger was no linebacker. She didn't wrestle, right? Okay, but now, here's what I know. That if just those of us in this room, and then hear that Rachel speak, absolutely amazing. And unjust to have me on after her. But amazing. If just those of us in this room corresponded our life to the grace that God has given us, our resources, our education, our connections, our friends, and our technology, the culture of death would vanish in an instant. Hitler's 1,000-year Reich seemed like it would be there forever, was gone in an instant. The Soviet Union with its nuclear submarines and the Stasi and the KGB and brigade after brigade after brigade and division after division, in the blink of an eye was gone. Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry does not scare me. Their time is limited. And I'll say this, that I'm going to go back home to my little island tomorrow, Oahu, and plant the flag of life in my parish. I'm going to plant it at my office that's at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. If you're ever in Hollywood, we're on the Hollywood and Vine building, 7th floor. I'm going to plant the flag there. And this Tuesday and this November, every day in between and every day after, if you do truly correspond your life here in Ohio, we will see the culture of death disappear in an instant. God bless you.
Thank you, Jason Jones.
I think I took away the front of the trailer, right? I can give it a few movie tickets. Okay. I want to say I love this woman and I love her fortitude. And young people, if you think we're going to do this in a day, you better make a 40-year plan, because once we protect the child in the womb from abortion, there's 1,000 other things that is important that we need to do. Human sexuality, pornography, and many other things. When we have the fortitude of this woman, we're going to win battle after battle after battle. Abortion's the first milestone, not the last.
I have a wonderful, wonderful treat for you all if you have the time to stay. Jason has brought with him a never-before-seen trailer. He was going to be here for... He hasn't even seen it yet, of his new movie that's coming out. It's about 7...
No, it's 4 minutes.
4 minutes. Do you want to see it? Yay!
I'm going to set it up real quick. Most of my movies, to quote Donald Trump, I'm not bragging, I'm just saying, are like kind of big budget for Christian films, really beautiful, and we win big film festivals. This film is a lower budget film, but it has soul, and it is amazing. And it's from a group of guys that made this film, are from Calvary Chapel in New Jersey. And their goal and our goal is that this film creates a pro-life committee in every pro-life church in America. That's our goal for this film. And afterwards, I'm going to give you, we'll watch the trailer, and I'll buy 2 tickets for everyone in here who signs up to learn more about the movie. So here it is, Voiceless.
I am so excited with what the Lord is doing with our new outreach program. I knew that we would need someone unique. He's a self-taught student of theology, a decorated soldier, but most importantly, he has the heart to please and serve God.
If someone would have told me that one day I'd be standing in a pulpit in a church in Philadelphia, well, I would have said they were nuts.
You know, Jesse, I think you're going to be the first outreach leader that this church has had. There's a storefront downstairs that we're using as storage. It needs to be cleaned up, but I think it's gonna work out fine.
What do you think about me spicing the place up a little?
What do you have in mind?
I was thinking more like a real boxing gym.
I like it.
1, 2, 3.
These programs are great for reeling them in, but getting them up there, what really matters. Keep those priorities straight.
So, how often do I have to come here?
This is your first post-psych eval, right?
That's correct.
It says here that you work at a church now.
That's right.
So an Army Ranger who's now running an outreach at a church in the city. How's that going?
Hi, I'm Jesse from New Life Fellowship Church over on High Street.
The one with the clinic across the street. We all thought that was pretty bold, even for an abortion clinic.
Is someone addressing the situation?
I'm in the process of filing a complaint.
Well, has anything come of it yet?
I just told you I'm working on it.
It's a family planning clinic, right? They do offer some good services.
And they also have about 5 to 20 abortions a day.
Best thing we can do for those women is pray for their salvation.
The church has changed, Jesse. We've become more like a lamp tucked under a basket rather than a light on top of a hill.
That clinic is perfectly legal. Unless they're doing something to break the law, there's nothing you can do about it.
What do you look so thrilled about?
A woman came and was headed over to that clinic. She needed some help.
Maybe you had no business speaking to her at all.
Then what am I doing in this job in the first place?
What is it you always say? Sometimes what we run from, God puts right in front of our face.
I want to speak to the manager.
Sir, you're gonna have to leave.
Don't do this, okay? That baby is a child of God.
Right! Stop! This kind of a confrontation is only going to cause problems. There are women in this church who have abortion in their past. You can't expect me to go to them and try to explain.
Is it really about that? Or is it about the Sunday turnout?
Your job is to run church outreach, not a pregnancy center. You should have taken these situations right to the church.
And do what? Have another prayer meeting? This is what God would want, Julia.
Righteous man fallen down before the wicked. Is it a troubled fountain in a corrupt spring?
Don't do this. Don't take that baby's life.
Don't speak to us, do you hear me?
We are right across the street.
They're not pressing charges at this time, but if you enter that clinic or walk on this property, you're going to jail.
I thought you were done with this. Now you're turning into some kind of a fanatic?
I will not compromise this church over a fight that we cannot win, and I will not allow you to do it either. Do you understand me?
Keep doing your boxing, Mr. Dean. At least you're swinging at something.
It's all penance, my friend. It's what you make of it, right?
Never question where God is leading you, even if sometimes it's a bit uncomfortable.
So that's more of a sizzle reel. So I'm gonna give you where you go to sign up if you want free tickets. It's just Voiceless. Voiceless, the name of the movie, then TC, Voiceless TC, like theatercaptain.com, voicelesstc.com. My organization, Movie to Movement, gives away about $500,000 in movie tickets a year to films that promote human dignity, especially the child in the womb. So 2 tickets for you, but if there's foster kids, underprivileged children, let us know and we'll get you as many tickets as you need. God bless you.